Hello, everyone. It's Labor Day weekend. My name is Gary Gomes. I'm going to be talking with you, I think, more briefly today than normal, not because it's not an important weekend and not because we um also because I'm not really feeling 100% today. So, in fairness to you and in fairness to my analysis, I'm going to be taking what I would consider to be some light subjects. There will be some political subjects involved, but I tend not to be, I, I try not to take sides in political arguments because that's really not what astrology is about, to be honest with you. Essentially, what I view astrology as being is I'm pointing out trends and patterns as opposed to taking sides in an issue. That doesn't mean I don't have an opinion. I certainly do, but you're entitled to your opinion. I'm entitled to mine. I don't feel it's my place to impose my opinion on you. And I was just um, watching a presentation, and I was thinking to myself, okay, so from this country's perspective, this analysis would come out very, very different, and or very, very differently than, let's say, another country's analysis or one person's analysis, or um, the interpretation of what happened would come out very differently from another person's interpretation. So I try not to um, put my finger on the scales too much. Sometimes I succeed, sometimes I don't. Again, my name is Gary Gomes. I'm a Vedic astrologer of just about 35 years experience. I have, I'm a working astrologer, which means I do readings. I get paid to do readings. If you want a reading from me, you're more than welcome to inquire. I also teach astrology. I've been an astrology teacher since 1996. Actually, a little bit earlier than that. I actually started taking some students on in 1990, I would say around 1994. Uh, but officially, called a teacher since around 1996. And so I've learned a lot. I've discarded a lot of what I've learned. I try to keep an open perspective on all traditions, and I try to guide you the best way I know how. So that having been said, if you would like to contact me, uh, my number, my phone number, which you can text me on, is 508 525 0001. And my email is my name, Gary Gomes, GaryGomes, and the letter G at gmail.com. So it's Gary Gomes, G at gmail.com. Okay. So if you have any questions about this or how to contact me, or you have any questions about Vedic astrology and what it can tell you and what it can't tell you, please let me know. Please contact me. Consider myself very easy to talk to, and I won't try to sell you something you won't need. Okay. So that okay. So that having been said, and I successfully managed to mute the phone call before I took it, which is a minor triumph. Let's uh, get on with the show. Okay, so I'm going to talk about uh, obviously the eclipse coming this coming week, and also the chart coming up. But I'm going to talk about two specific areas. That is uh, the current spate of news items that are coming up on Donald Trump, especially regarding his health and whether or not he's got a major heart condition. The other thing that's interesting that happened just recently is um, some people think they've spotted former President Clinton walking around with a defibrillator. So it seems to be sort of a time for presidential health issues or former presidential health issues. And the other thing is, I'd like to talk about Iran's future. Again, I'm not going to take sides in this. I'm just going to look at the chart, analyze it. And I'll start off with the eclipse and then I'll go to the week. Then I'll take, no, I'll go to the two charts, excuse me, I'll go to Trump's chart and um, if I have time, Clinton's chart and show you the indicators which are indicating health issues and give my educated opinion on whether or not there's going to be a serious health issue or death this coming year. And also look at Iran and see whether or not there's going to be a change in administration there this year. So, and then I'll go to the weekly reading. So let me just pull up the chart for. Oh, by the way, please, the standard YouTube pitch. Subscribe, like, comment, give me a thumbs up if you think I deserve it, and uh, let's go from there. Okay. So let me call up the eclipse chart. Lunar eclipse is. I have this on my other computer. I'm going to have to look it up again. I'm sorry. I have it. September 7th, lunar eclipse. I do have it on this chart. I'm so proud of myself. All right. All right. So, don't know if you can see it yet. Let me share it with you. Okay, it's not sharing yet. Just a second. This is the only irritation I have with the share command on Zoom. It takes a while for it to build up. So this particular lunar eclipse is kind of interesting because it's so we have a solar eclipse on the 21st as well. But the next 2 weeks are going to be, I would say, tense weeks. And again, as I said last weekend, or the weekend before, I think it was last weekend, this is like a prelude to the eclipse. So this month is going to be dominated. This from the end of August until around the end of September is going to be dominated by this eclipse. Now, eclipses is standard fare in Vedic astrology to essentially look at eclipses and say, well, these are going to last for 9 months. All right, so we're back to this particular eclipse, and we have so this is so almost every eclipse is going to happen in Leo and Aquarius over the next year or so. So, but the 21st eclipse actually, it's going to be a little bit different because the sun will move into the next sign. It'll move into Virgo, which is interesting. But the lunar eclipse in particular will occur in these particular signs. So, so basically, at least according to this chart, this do, this does threaten, and as I had started to say earlier, was this affects people in positions of authority. These types of eclipses affect people in positions of authority. So kings, rulers, you're seeing financial troubles in countries like France, the UK, Europe is in, but you're seeing really financial troubles essentially the world over. COVID really did a number uh, on a lot of countries, not every country, but a lot of countries. It did a number on the United States. It did a number on most of the European countries. It did a number on China, and we're seeing historically high deficits in many countries around the world. And so that's kind of a dangerous sign. Uh, but, and you will see over the next 6 months, I think, again, and I've been saying this for a while, a lot of threats to leadership around the world. And this Sun K2 Mercury conjunction is dangerous for leaders or people in positions of authority. That'll be the most important part of the eclipse, to be honest with you. So there'll be anxiety. There may be even some people leaving office within the next, I would say, 6 months or so. Maybe for some people sooner. And I think the other thing is, so this doesn't necessarily mean if you're uh, a Leo sun an Aquarius sun or an Aquarius rising or a Leo rising in Vedic astrology that you're going to have a really horrible 6 months. But there will be a lot of challenges and a lot of shifts in your life. And I think that overall, this Moon Rahu conjunction creates a certain amount of anxiety for people, a certain amount of trepidation about the future. This is the United States birth chart, moon sign. Um, and so you are seeing what I would call a lot of discontent, certainly in the United States and in countries around the world. The rising sign for the eclipse is Capricorn. So this can mean some impact on financial markets over the next 6 months. But I think the Rahu uh, conjunction with the moon usually brings more panic than it does real damage to people. And I I also think you're going to see basically everybody just a little bit dissatisfied with the direction of the world over the next 6 months to a year. So that's not surprising if you look out in the world overall, but it's really kind of jumping the gun. It's kind of so Sun with K2 creates a certain amount of uncertainty. K2 with Mercury gives you the impression that people in leadership to you, there are countries like England which seem to be like teetering on, on the brink of I think they're getting a little bit melodramatic when they're saying civil war because that's some of the reports I've been seeing. But countries like England are going through a heck of a domestic crisis. Canada is going through its own equivalent of a domestic crisis. So yeah, we can expect to see that element of uncertainty over the next six, 6 to 7 months. In terms of particulars, so let's look at, but this chart is essentially, we have Jupiter is in the sixth house. Um, Jupiter's in Gemini. Venus is in the seventh house in this chart. So this really isn't a bad eclipse chart. But again, keep in mind, it doesn't really matter whether or not it's a bad eclipse chart or not. The perception of the public popularity of people will go down. There'll be a lot of scandals connected, especially with leadership. There'll be a lot of perception that things are being hid. Okay. And that will be true no matter which side of the aisle you're on in whatever country. Okay. Uh, Mars is in the ninth house in this eclipse chart. It means people are ready to take action or to do things or to make new things or to not make new things, to try new things or try new forms of government. So I think, but look at the rising sign, the Sri Lagnas in the rising sign. So this is not really a horrible chart, but again, the anxiety over money is present, the anxiety over people's um, conditions in life, especially their opinion of leaders, is going to drop precipitously over the next year or so. Okay. So we won't be fully out of this until really around late 2026, early 2027. And there'll even be some overlap after that. So prepare to see a lot more scandals, a lot more revelations. There was just something recently that came out that Democratic influencers or people who are left influencers are being paid, similar to what happened with conservative influencers, are being paid a few months ago, are being paid up to $8,000 a month to uh, worth of support from um, a, a Democratic donor. Now, I'm not. Now, again, this is so. So essentially, um, you have both sides of both political camps just a little bit um, corrupted by outside money, and this is even in 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 the you know it's essentially the online media, which was supposed to be a break from uh, traditional media. You know, it's been hyped up as being a break from traditional media. Uh, it doesn't seem like that's um, so. Instead of sponsors or instead of corporations calling the shots, you have direct uh, political interests funding these folks. And the difference between not telling them what to say and telling them what to say is rather slim because um, I guess the old adage you don't bite the hand that feeds you. So if you're a left-leaning political influencer or you're a right-leaning political influencer, you're not going to you're receiving support, you're receiving some kind of a payment, and you, it's less likely that you'll be inclined to say something which disagrees with the person that, or the body that's paying you. All right, so that sort of seems um, self-evident to me, but maybe I'm just wrong about that. But I don't think I am. And so so again, like I said, I try to call it from both sides. It's a full moon the end of this week. We can see some flips in positions. Okay, that Sun K2 conjunction. There has been a lot of attention paid to what I would call small victories uh, on the left. And when I say small victories, it's things like state legislatures, uh, seats shifting in deep red states, or um, or else all the talk about gerrymandering districts to favor one party or another. Now, keep in mind, gerrymandering has gone on for decades. Uh, I over 100 years. The origin of the term is from actually from a Democratic governor of my state, Massachusetts, who redistricted. I think back in the 1800s, and so this is not a new phenomenon. It's so 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 a lot of the I'm just trying to think of the right way to say it. The outrage is understandable, but it also indicates that we have no real memory of what's happened in politics before. Um, and I think that this will be as political as I get. It's time to sharpen up and pay attention to what's happened historically, because otherwise you're going to continue to be manipulated rather than looking at things in a cold-hearted, logical light and how they influence you or affect you personally. And you'll be convinced to vote in ways that deep down you may say to yourself, I really don't want this to happen, but you'll be convinced that that's really the only way to save yourself. And that's true for either conservatives or liberals. It's not or uh, MAGA or uh, leftists. It's not. Uh, we're all sort of being manipulated, and I think the sooner we realize that, uh, and I think I've said this before, this is the most propagandized I've ever seen this country, and it's telling to me because we don't realize we're being propagandized. So that's and I didn't make that original observation. Somebody else did, but I can't remember who. So if I remember, I'll give due credit. But this particular pattern, I expect to see a lot of politicians, a lot of leaders, not just in the United States, but internationally, in trouble over the next 9 months. It'll get more intense, and you'll probably see things like audits or intensive audits around the end of the month and continuing over the next 6 to 7 months. The other thing is, in terms of um, foreign policy or foreign policy issues, um, this will delay progress because everybody will want to see things just perfect. We need to get this darn Mars out of Virgo, and that'll happen within about 2 weeks. Then we can start to see some kind of small progress being made towards peace. Okay, so that's what I'm optimistic for. And also, the Saturn retrograde will delay a peace deal until at least late November. But I am optimistic we will see a peace deal in late November. All right, so let's move on to so the eclipse chart, how it's going to affect you personally. I'll talk about that in the weekly charts. Let's just go to Donald Trump's chart. I'll see if I can pull up Bill Clinton's really quick too. So this is like a short um, lesson in how to analyze um, a health issue in a chart. Okay, so Donald Trump, if I can pull it up, where is he? I spelled that correctly. Okay, where is he? 1 second. Oops. Donald. Oh, there he is. Okay. Okay, so this is Donald J. Trump's chart. Now, you'll see from this chart that he has, so the eclipse is happening, uh, yeah, the lunar eclipse next week is happening right in his first house, right? And interesting enough, uh, the thing that uh, that caught a lot of people's attention was he's having some swelling around his legs and his hands are a bit discolored. So again, it doesn't matter how you feel one way or the other about Donald Trump. I'm just giving you an analysis of the birth chart. So he does have, so he's in a Jupiter major planetary period, as we can see over here. So the major planetary periods for a person have to go with what stages of life a person is in, okay? So he was in Rahu before, and that's the next Mahadasha or major planetary period. And the Vimshottari Dasha sequence is Jupiter. So Jupiter's considered to be a relatively benevolent Mahadasha, and it's a good planet for this rising sign, but it's also located in what's called a Maraka house or a house of death. So the second and seventh houses are considered houses of death. But it's also a house of family. And Jupiter's a benefic and is placed in, by transit, you can't see this, is placed in his 11th house. And I think one of the things we're seeing is he's in a Jupiter subperiod starting September 2nd, but he's also in this Mars subperiod. Now, Mars is currently afflicted by that particular, and it was under affliction this summertime by K2. So that will surface unexpected or odd health problems. Now, if we look at his chart, his heart is susceptible to health issues. He has K2 and a debilitated moon, not really debilitated by, it's not really as debilitated as most people think because it's moved away from its deepest point of debilitation, which is around here. It's around 2 degrees of Scorpio, and it's in Jyeshta. So when Donald Trump says he's smart, Jyeshta is one of the smartest nakshatras. So actually, he is smart. But the K2 there kind of screws it up a little bit, so it doesn't come out that strongly or that effectively. And K2 and Moon are very close together in the fourth house. K2 is a natural malefic. Moon is a natural malefic, or it's the lord of the 12th house of loss in this particular chart, and it's placed in the fourth house, which is connected with the heart in Vedic astrology. The fourth house lord is Mars. He is placed in his first house. So this is actually a relatively lucky combination for health. Mars in the first house, ruling the fourth house of health. Okay, it's considered one of the better placements. We've had a few presidents who have Mars and Leo. George W. Bush had this placement. But and if we want to look over at the Navamsha chart, we can see this is a little bit more positive for him right now. He's got a Mercury ruled rising sign. Mercury's in the ninth house. But there's also Rahu, which is transiting Mercury in this house, and Rahu, which is transiting his seventh house, another house of death. But if he were to die, I would have taken it as much more likely when Saturn was passing over the sign, which it was over the past couple of years. Okay. Rahu's now in his eighth house, which is also connected with death-like states. But um, I won't, um, paint it, um, too positively because uh, basically he does have heart issues that does tend to show up. He has circulation problems. That's mostly connected with the moon, and that shows up over here in this particular sign. Saturn's not aspecting the moon, but the moon rules blood. And but the other thing is K2 is passing over his first house of health, which is going to generate health problems. Okay, I can't um, put a bow tie on it and say it's ready to go to the wall. This is not a lucky transfer for him. The eclipse is hitting where they are, especially um, towards the end of the month, do put him in a lot of danger this month. Now, does that mean he's going to be killed? Not necessarily. K2 is um, can result in assassinations, but it does indicate more of a propensity towards heart conditions. And he's in a Mars subperiod up until September 14th. So that's why we're paying so much attention to his heart. Um, I'm not seeing this, and after February 5th of 2026, he enters a Jupiter subperiod, which again is a dangerous subperiod for him, and so is Saturn, if I'm honest. But and Venus, the Venus subperiod is a little bit difficult as well. Venus is in its 12th house, but Venus in the 12th is not really such a bad placement, if I'm honest. Saturn is rough, but Venus isn't. So if we're looking at health-related issues, he has a few months here. There may be some health panics over the next month and and I would say around December 8th, and maybe again around April 1st from this chart. But so he is what I would call a prime candidate for a heart attack or some kind of a heart condition. Uh, but it doesn't look like a death chart to me. It doesn't look like he's going to die anytime soon. And those of you who have been looking forward to that, I hate to disappoint you, but I've looked at a lot of these charts and it doesn't look like a death inflicting period. If we were in the most dangerous for him in terms of death is really the Saturn subperiod because Saturn's the lord of his seventh house and that lasts until November of 2026. But again, I've seen these transits occur before. Sometimes nothing happens to the person. Sometimes the person gets a stroke. Sometimes the person has a heart attack. Dwight Eisenhower had two heart attacks while he was in the White House, and he survived them both. So again, this is not necessarily so worst case scenario heart attack sometime over the next 6 months, more danger over the next couple of months. Uh, and I don't think, but again, I don't think passing. Again, if I'm pessimistic or if I'm not pessimistic, if I'm cautious, let's put it that way. If I'm cautious, uh, I would say he should watch out for his health. And the reason the attention was brought to his hands was mainly because he's in a Jupiter subperiod right now, and that does show up. But again, is he in danger? Yeah, over the next year and a half, definitely so. Even over the 2 years after that, I'm not going to lie, and it does me no good to lie to you, but and if we look at Bill Clinton's chart, this is former President Clinton's chart. It's the chart that I like. Some astrologers like the Cancer rising chart uh, because they look at it and say, well, nobody can be a leader unless they're a Cancer or a Leo rising, which is that's at least one thing I heard many years ago. But Bill's sun is also under affliction, and the planet which is most connected with the heart is the sun. So this could indicate some hidden health problems. He has an eclipse coming up, and he just had K2 passing over his first house over the past year, year and a half. So, yeah, I mean, he's got some heart issues as well, and that's what's showing that up. He's in a K2 subperiod. It's kind of a dangerous subperiod for health. And his Venus subperiod isn't good either because his Venus is debilitated. It's a weak Venus. And so over the next couple of years, Bill's in danger. Former President Clinton's in danger. As a matter of fact, really, so um, wouldn't be unsurprising for me to see him pass um, before 2028. I'm not wishing that on him, or else serious health issues connected with his heart before that time. So again, it wouldn't be incredibly surprising to see either or both men pass away within the next couple of years. Um, I'm giving Trump's chart a little bit more weight, uh, not uh, because I think Trump's chart is basically a stronger chart than Clinton's is. But this sun, even though it's in the 12th house, this sun, if you look down at this shot ball, which is a measure of strengthening the planets, is very strong. So K2 and Rahu are the two most powerful things in the chart, so they can overwhelm the sun. But he would have at least, I would say, at least the better part of a year before it becomes a serious, or not as serious before it becomes a life-threatening problem for him. Okay? So it's now again, you know, this is one of the things, death charts, most people don't like to look at death charts. I really don't like to look at death charts or health charts. But it's interesting that both presidents had that particular observation made about them over the past uh, month or so. And with Clinton, it's a rather recent observation. Okay, so Iran, I do have Iran's chart in here. Let me look at that. Again, keep in mind that eclipse points are actually positive if you want to change direction in your life, or if you want to flip uh, your ambitions and goals, and even if you want to get rid of stuff you don't need anymore, okay? Or if you want to change direction or fix bad habits. Eclipse charts are phenomenal for that. They can, however, bring unexpected upsets. Depending on where they are in your chart, they can cause a lot of problems, let's say um, with leadership, authority, and a lot of times you'll get unexpected and maybe difficult surprises. But they are a foundation for making positive changes in your life as well. So this is Iran's birth chart. Let's look at this. Iran has um, a Scorpio rising. Now again, this was taken from midnight. I don't know when the um, during that particular day when the actual takeover occurred or change in governments occurred. And there's a Venus K2 conjunction, so that throws out the established order. Mercury's debilitated along with Mars. So this is a political chart. This is not, so this isn't necessarily a negative. Most charts are political charts, yeah, especially when countries are founded. Um, Jupiter's in the ninth house. Jupiter is so Iran right now is in a Jupiter major planetary period. Um, It's in a Venus subperiod, so there is some danger of war to Iran, um, and some panic connected with that. I think a lot of the panic connected with that will go. You'll see intense nationalism in Iran around the end of the month, and I would say by February of next year. So they may actually get involved in a conflict, but I'm hoping that doesn't happen before the end of the year. And if we go to February 2nd of next year, I think you'll see a change in government. Okay. Um, and again, it's not necessarily because of a defeat in a war or anything like that. It may just be a popular uprising or just dissatisfaction with the government as it is. And I think it'll be interesting to watch Iran over the next couple of years because, especially between 2027 and March of 2029, it looks like a period of great prosperity for Iran and even continuing into 2029. But again, this is the most, these two periods, the Rahu period can create panic, is passing over Venus and Ketu right now, and it can, and Jupiter periods, from what I've seen from my experience, can trigger wars. They can trigger conflicts. But I do think you'll see a change in Iranian leadership next year. Okay, so that was just something I want to look at just quickly. So I'll look at the Middle East when I'm feeling a little bit better and braver, because the Middle East is it's kind of a mess that's been made by Europe and the United States, and then compounded by actors in the Middle East as well. It's not just us, but we certainly Europe and the United States certainly played a huge role in that, like a huge role. So this is the chart for where we are right now. The moon is in Scorpio, where it's been for the past day or so. It's past its maximum debilitation point, so that's good. So we'll start to feel much more optimistic tomorrow, much more um, interested in going out doing things, seeing people. Rahu's in the fourth house. There's a lot of discontent at home. Saturn's in the fifth house. There's a feeling that, like, basically, like, that luck's been stymied or luck's been held back over the past few months. And that's going to continue really until around November. A lot of people, you don't have to wait until November to start things, but there'll be less, um, fewer obstacles if you start in November. Also, you're expecting people to charge you for something or to get things resolved finally. It'll probably take until around the end of November to get that done. Jupiter's in the eighth house, which is not a bad placement. Um, it does indicate an interest in finding out details behind the scenes. Venus is in the ninth house, so good luck to relationship partners is indicated this month or this week. And we have that Sun K2 Mercury. So there should be a lot of changes in leadership at work. And Mars is in the 12th house. There'll be expenses, but also gains connected with work. I'm going to start the screen sharing again. Sorry about that. Okay, so let's open this up again. Okay, just bear with me a second. Screen sharing that. Let's get out of here. Let's go back to the share. All right. Now we can share it with impunity. Okay, so let's go back to the Zoom because it didn't quite share. Let's go back to this. We're going to share. Okay, so that share took. So let's look at the individual signs. Aries has a lot of obstacles to face that'll tend to pass a bit within about 2 weeks, but there'll be increasing conflict with relationship partners after that. Second house Lord is in the fourth house, so there'll be a lot of focus on financial expenses connected with the house, but basically home life will be uh, reasonably okay. Jupiter's in the third house. Again, the signs really try not to make waves or try not to interfere or get on people's nerves. And essentially, the Sun Mercury K2 combination does indicate problems with children. Okay, so children are acting a little bit out of control, or a little bit out of control, or a little bit difficult. Moon is in the eighth, so again, that's where the expenses for the home come from. Rahu's in the 11th, so financial gains, but a lot of expenses for Aries still. And that's not really going to change dramatically for a little while. For Taurus, Taurus has Saturn in so this would be May 15th to June 15th. Aries was April 15th to May 15th. Taurus has the first Lord in the third house, so the sign is going to be polite, gentlemanly, cordial, sweet, um, very easy to deal with. Financial growth is expected for this sign. Sun and K2 are in the fourth house. Again, some problems with home and with family members. Okay, so things will start to break down a little bit at home. Some arguments with kids or some arguments in terms of creativity. Moon is in the eighth house, is in the seventh house, so wife may seem to be a bit depressed or a bit difficult to deal with. Rahu's in the 10th, not a lot of work satisfaction, but there is some financial gain. And whenever I see Rahu in the 10th house, there's this urge to jump to another job. Just be careful about that because Rahu is going to be in the sign for about another year and a half. It means the next job you jump to won't make you feel any better than this job will. So just be a little bit cautious about this. Um, for Gemini, Gemini has Jupiter in the first house. So this is June 15th to July 15th. Saturn is in the 10th house, a lot of work, but apparently setbacks of work because Saturn's retrograde. Venus is in the second house, and with Venus in the second house, the person will appear to be nice, evenly dispositioned, but they'll be worried about pets or about obstacles in their life. So on the surface, they'll seem fine, but they'll seem a little bit upset. Sun and K2 are in the third house, so they'll have a lot of courage. They'll be more active. Mars is aspecting the seventh house. This tends to give some problems with relationships or relationship partners being cold or distant. Moon is in the sixth house, so again, there's some anxiety about money showing up. Rahu in the ninth will give temporary gains and new contacts and a lot of activity, a lot of social activity. Saturn in the 10th, again, a lot of career focus. For Cancer, Cancer is July 15th to August 15th. We have Venus in the first house, Jupiter's in the 12th house, giving the ability to save money, which is a good thing. Sun, K2, and Mercury are in the second house. This is generally a good sign placement for arguments, for getting into conflicts or misunderstandings with other people, and even for the sign lying just a little bit or making up stories is more how I like to put it. It's not really a lie, it's creative embellishment. Okay, so um, that's a more polite way of putting it. So so this is a story. Uh, people make up stories with this combination. Um, Mars is in the third house, so this is not a bad placement for Cancer, Cancer Sun, Moon, or Rising, as it gives the sign a certain amount of courage. Moon is in the fifth house, so make the sign feel a little bit depressed or a little bit anxious. But again, it's in Jyeshta Nakshatra. It's in a smart nakshatra. Yesterday it was in Anuradha, so you got help from friends. The day before that, Friday, it was Thursday to Friday, was really horrible. I can speak from experience. Let's see now. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven. Seventh house, Lord Saturn is in the ninth house, so relationship partners will seem to be hardworking, but may seem to have a lot of problems and pressures. Rahu's in the eighth. This isn't a bad placement, but Rahu in the eighth does make a person feel like they're being conspired against, and they may, in fact, actually be conspired against with this combination. And let's see now. But again, there's a lot of interest in metaphysics and spirituality. And we've already spoken about Jupiter in the 12th. This can give short-term joy voyages, but also the ability to save money. For Leo, Leo is from basically from August 15th to September 15th. And for Leo, you have Sun, K2, Mercury. So people who have strong Leo placements in their chart, there's going to be a propensity to not necessarily hide the truth, but to embellish the truth, so to make up stories to make your position seem more defensible. Mars is in the second house, and this sign will be very aggressive in pursuing its interests. Moon is in the fourth house, can give some minor health problems to this sign, as we just discussed in Donald Trump's chart. And Rahu's in the seventh house. This particular placement is uh, a very good placement for fame going to wife or a relationship partner. Saturn's in the eighth house. This is sort of like people trying to go backwards or being negative about whatever progress the king has made, because Leo is the sign of the king. And Jupiter's in, but it'll be dispersed. The complaints won't be specific, they'll be generalized. Jupiter's in the 11th house. It should give this sign whatever it wants over the next year or so. And Venus is in the 12th house. This gives this sign a good ability to salvage things at the last minute. For Virgo, so not a bad week, but the eclipse is going to hit this sign uh, by next weekend. So just this sign should be careful, especially next weekend. Um, Virgo is September 15th to October 15th. Mars is in the first house. And so a lot of people with this sign should feel increased energy, but it is being fought by Saturn because uh, the, the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. Saturn is making this sign do everything very slowly. It has a lot of energy, but it's not really applying it. Moon is in the third house. There is some anxiety about not being able to accomplish what you want with this particular combination, but it's smartened up over the past uh, day or so, this morning in particular, and it's getting a little bit more comfortable with itself, let's say. Rahu's in the sixth house. There can be some worries about illnesses or diseases from this combination, so that's going to be a problem with Virgo for about a year, and Saturn's in the seventh house. So this usually indicates some problems with relationship partner. Relationship partner either seems to be difficult to deal with or um, seems to be stuck in their ways, and they won't move forward until around the end of November. So they're promising a lot of change, but they're not delivering it. But career-wise, this sign looks like it's in very good shape. Financially, it looks like it should have some gains, but again, watch out on impulse spending for this sign. This is true of Leo, Virgo, and Libra. Truthful. For Libra, this is October 15th through November 15th, or whoever has a moon or a rising sign in Libra. And Mars gives a lot of expenses on cars and property. There may need to be some repairs done to property for this sign. Moon is in the second house, so there's some anxiety about money or some delays in getting money. Rahu's in the fifth house. So there's this strong element of creativity, of wanting to seek something new or something different. And this happens every 19 years for this sign, but these next couple of years it will be felt very intensely because the sign is willing to work for this especially after November, but even starting right now. Jupiter's in the ninth house, so if this sign wants to start anything, it should do so um, over the next few months, because right now Jupiter and Venus are extremely well placed for starting new initiatives. Also, it can bring some relationship opportunities to the sign, but again, there should be some caution over the next couple of months because it will either cause major fights at home or else um, you may attract people who seem to be um, one thing, but they're really not what they seem to be. So this Mars in the 12th house is generally a sign that an indication the sign is a little bit sexually frustrated, and especially with Saturn aspecting that you can live with that for a couple of months, just so you don't get pulled into a bad relationship. As a matter of fact, I probably wait for about 3 or 4 months if I'm being completely honest with you. Um, and I want to be honest with you. That's my job. The other thing is, so for Libra, not a bad week. Good for socializing tomorrow, and also good for again starting new projects. Excellent time to start new projects. There will be some delays though, just to keep your mind in that space. There will be some delays, but it should start. For Scorpio, Scorpio goes from November 15th to December 15th. Moon is in the first house, Lord of the ninth house in the first. Not a bad placement. Um, Venus is the Lord of the seventh house, so good relationships with spouse. This sign will be extremely intelligent this month. Good for financial gains, especially of property. Work life will be a little bit frustrating. You may find yourself having to give explanations for why projects aren't completed or why there is interference in projects. And Rahu's in the fourth house, so again, some problems in terms of home repairs or dissatisfaction with home or vehicles. Saturn's in the fifth house. This isn't a bad placement. It can give some problems with children, but those are always there, I think, for this particular sign. So overall, not a bad week for Scorpio, but again, watch out for fights at work or even some treachery at work. For Sagittarius, Sagittarius is December 15th through January 15th. And Sagittarius has Rahu in the has the Sri Lagna in the second house. I don't talk about these special lagnas. I'll probably give a presentation on the special lagnas. Um, yeah, but Sri Lagna is in the second house. These and the Upagrahas are very important, and I really should be talking about those more. Um, so Sri Lagna actually gives an emphasis on wealth. This sign will attract wealth, especially through business partnerships, maybe even through relationships with the opposite sex. Rahu's in the second house who wants more money. Saturn's in the third house, very disciplined placement for Capricorn, very goal-oriented. Capricorn is a goal-oriented sign, but this makes it even more so. Jupiter's in the sixth house. It helps to go against the flow for this particular sign. Venus and the yogi point are in the seventh house. So again, this is good for prosperity through wife, and there'll be a lot of attention on relationship matters for Capricorn this particular week and month. Mars is in the ninth house. Oh, I'm sorry, Sun, Ketu, and Mercury are in the eighth house. Some disappointments in terms of gains from long-term investments or inheritances. So when I say that, basically, people who rely on um, investments or inheritances for survival, they may be a little bit disappointed in what they get, but they will get a lot. Let me just see now. And again, some interruptions or interferences with those things as well, with those matters as well. Mars in the ninth is very good for the sign. Good increase in financial prosperity, good luck. Moon in the 11th is gives strong financial returns, but again, it's not really as prosperous as it could be. And let's go on to Aquarius, next to the last sign. And this is January 15th uh, February 15th through March 15th. And Rahu's in the first house. A lot of focus on something new, getting new things, getting new ideas, getting breakthrough. The sign wants to be unique over the next year or so. It wants to make major innovative pathways. Saturn's in the second house, so there can be some blocks or misunderstandings in how it speaks. But basically, this particular sign is going to be extremely innovative over the next year and a half. Jupiter's, and again, for those of you who don't know, Rahu is often um, characterized as evil if it's, but it's a forward-thinking sign. It's a futuristic sign. So if you're interested in things like that, it isn't evil at all. Okay. Um, so moving on to Jupiter and Venus. Jupiter's in the fifth house. It'll give good financial growth, maybe some payback for things you've done, favors you've done people in the past. Venus is in the sixth house. Now, this can give some problems with relationship matters and some minor problems with health patterns. Sun, Mercury, and Ketu are in the seventh house, and Mars is in the eighth house. So, not necessarily a good time to get involved in a new relationship. Uh, just, just stick with the current one, and things will get a little bit better in late September. And Moon is in the 10th house. So career life goes well, but again, there'll be delays or obstructions in career. Finally, we're at Pisces. Pisces has Saturn in the first house. Again, a little bit too free and fancy with the money, maybe building up a lot of credit card debt. As a matter of fact, quite a few signs seem to be going deeper and deeper into debt, like um, Libra, Virgo. Uh, I would say Aries and Pisces. Those are the main candidates. But basically, um, Pisces should watch out because it's for things it really doesn't want and it'll get dissatisfied with very quickly. Jupiter's in the fourth house. Good for education. Venus is in the fifth house. Overall, good relationship with children. Mars, Sun, and Mercury and K2 are in the sixth house. So some problems with coworkers or people who do work for you. And Mars is in the seventh house. Some argument with relationship partners, and also not a good time for new relationships. Let's see now. Moon is in the ninth house. Good for new approaches to old problems. So not a bad week, um, barring relationship life for Pisces. Let's go to the time and space chart, the astral mapping chart. And I'm going to try to go through this one relatively quickly. And let's get rid of this. Okay, and let's close this again. And okay, so this is the full scale map. We have some political scandal, some scandal in Alaska and Hawaii. Um, some arguments uh, over land in Western Canada, and even over rights and laws. Um, Venus can give some rainfall, intense rainfall in this particular portion of the world. This is Arizona over into California and up into Utah and Montana and Idaho. And we're going up into basically Western Canada, Alberta, Saskatchewan area. And there's there was again um, the drama of Canada continues. So there are some interesting petitions that are occurring, especially for Alberta, and it remains to be seen how Canada is going to handle that. Um, so you know, there is a process for the Canadian provinces to secede um, from Canada itself, unlike the U.S. Constitution, or maybe um, it's it's a bit fuzzier in the U.S. Constitution whether secession is allowable, but in Canada there is a re, and I believe actually it is allowable, but the Civil War sort of set a precedent for that not going so smoothly. Um, I I believe there are terms. I'm not a constitutional scholar, so don't quote me. But from what I understand of Canada, there is a procedure where these are like huge areas compared to the United States. States. So these are like Texas or Alaska sized regions that we're talking about. So Mercury um, goes to looks like uh, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and all the way down through Iowa, and down into Louisiana. So we are hearing a lot about Louisiana and all these states in the news right now. And there are some political scandals in Louisiana as well, mentioned previously. Uh, the sun is going through Ohio, sun line is going through Ohio, Georgia, Florida, and down into Panama. And there's also a moon line going through Panama. So we should expect to see a lot of action around the Panama area next week, and a lot of news around Mexico City in particular, and also around Cuba, and also around Haiti. And finally, what's this line? There's a Rahu line going through Vermont, Massachusetts, Connecticut. So we can expect to see governmental scandals within this particular region right here very strongly, and maybe even as far south down as far down south. Excuse me, I have to get my sequence of words properly put together properly. Uh, Down through the Dominican Republic and down through Venezuela, Guyana, and even into Brazil and Bolivia and Argentina and Chile. So these areas are not off limits. I could expect to see some political violence in Brazil, especially around this region of Brazil, maybe even heading down into Rio de Janeiro. And let's see now. And the moon line is heading over Iceland, so the Icelandic government may be having some internal disputes about where it stands. Greenland is in the Mars line, so I'm not expecting to see a lot of fighting in Greenland, but there will be discussion about property and who owns Greenland over the next few months, definitely. Um, and as apparently Denmark doesn't want to give up Greenland, but Greenland, I think, wants independence. They don't want to be part of the United States, but they want independence. Um, so that's my understanding. Uh, Jupiter is passing over Scotland, Ireland, and there's a Venus line. So it's interesting when you see these two planets together, and also Spain. Spain is having some severe financial problems, and so is Portugal. And the Azores, being part of Portugal, have that as well. So it's interesting when you see these two lines together. So most people would say, well, it's Jupiter and Venus; those are benefic lines. But basically, whenever you see Venus and Jupiter in proximity, there's always some fundamental distinction about. Um, there's always some argument or issue of law about the way the country has always done things versus the way it's doing things now. And I think this is also hitting true in France. You know, France has that financial crisis, which I told you about. And there's also a lot of anxiety in Germany. Germany's in trouble. Uh, Sardinia and down into Libya, Algeria, down into Central Africa, and all the way through Africa from essentially from Zimbabwe up through um, Libya and even into Central or Eastern Europe. So we're seeing a lot of governmental issues. Um, Serbia, I was watching. There are like mass demonstrations in Serbia against the current government. So it's interesting. Like I said, this isn't just the discontent you're seeing in the United States is not isolated to the United States. It's it seems to be a worldwide phenomenon. Some areas more intense than others. And this sun line hitting close to Serbia sort of like underscores that. Um, and there's also, there's a sun line running up through here. This right down here is a Rahu line, so there's some governmental scandal happening in that part of the world. And we have a Mars line hitting Ukraine, Turkey, some governmental issues in Turkey as well, and Egypt, and down into Sudan. Um, there's a Mars line. There'll be more intense fighting in Israel or near Israel, and that will even go down and influence Saudi Arabia and sub-Saharan Africa, all the way down to Madagascar. And let's see, this line over here is a Jupiter line. So the Jupiter line is hitting Iran, um, Ukraine, and uh, Russia, at least currently. So there's some conflict, maybe even some potential for earthquakes in Western Turkey. I'm sorry, in Eastern Turkey, and also uh, given this Jupiter line, some calls for reform in Iran, I would say. Um, the other line over here is Venus. So, as I've said before, basically Pakistan and Afghanistan are fragile countries. I, I'm thinking that Iran may have more problems with Pakistan and Afghanistan than they will with Israel. That may seem cockeyed right now, but that's just looking at the map. That's the impression I'm getting. There's a moon line running through China, especially the Tibetan side of China, and also close to India. And there are bound to be some changes or uh, some fluctuations in government in India because of it being located between this Venus and Mercury line. So for the time being, India is in good shape. But as time progresses, and I'll look at India a little bit more carefully, maybe in a future session, because this moon line over here indicates change, probably starting in Bengal, but affecting the rest of the country. We have a sun line running through um, Myanmar, what used to be called Burma, Cambodia, Indonesia, and so there are a lot of government scandals in that part of the world right now. And there's a Rahu line running through Vietnam, Indonesia, again, indication of government scandals. Saturn running through China, Philippines, close to Borneo into Australia. So some economic downturns are indicated in those regions. And we have a Jupiter line going over eastern Indonesia, close to Guyana. And so there should be, no, I'm sorry, it's close to New Guinea. It is not Guyana, close to New Guinea. And there's a Mars line indicating some potential for violence or disruption near Korea and near Japan. So hopefully there's not another earthquake in Japan. And there's a Venus line, which can indicate some flooding in Japan and in New Zealand. So that's about it for this week. I want to say I love you all. Thank you so much for watching. It's been a real pleasure and honor on my part. I hope I didn't get too long-winded this time. I know I have a tendency to do that. And I love you all, and I wish you a blessed and peaceful Labor Day weekend, and be careful driving out there. People's tempers are still kind of frayed. Okay? So good luck, namaste, and thanks again. Again, don't forget to like, subscribe, and again, don't forget to contact me if you want to talk to me for any reason. 508 525 0001. any astrologically related reason. Let's put it that way. Or Gary Gomes, G at gmail.com. Those are the two best places to contact me. Okay? You can message me at my phone number. All right. Thanks a lot, folks. See you next week. Bye. Maybe earlier if I'm feeling feisty enough. Okay. Bye and have a great week.